Max Verstappen was leading the Nürburgring 24 hours by almost 40 seconds. 21 hours completed. 3 hours away from glory. Mercedes looked completely unbeatable. And then, in the middle of the race, fans listening to the onboard cameras heard something terrifying. A metallic cracking sound coming from Verstappen's car. Lap after lap, the noise got worse. The garage went silent. Engineers started panicking. And within minutes, the entire race collapsed in front of millions watching live. But here's the part that makes this story almost impossible to believe. The disaster may have actually started during the very first hour. One violent moment. One terrifying save at over 200 kilometers per hour. One hidden fracture inside the Mercedes that possibly survived for 20 hours before finally exploding at the worst possible time. This was not driver error. Not bad strategy. Not rain. This was a slow mechanical death happening inside the dominant car of the race while Verstappen kept pushing toward what should have been the biggest non-Formula One victory of his entire career. And when Mercedes finally discovered the real damage, they understood something horrifying. The race was already over. When the Nürburgring 24 hours began, Max Verstappen was not supposed to dominate this quickly. This race destroys even experienced endurance drivers. 161 cars sharing the same track. Constant traffic. Drivers from different categories moving at completely different speeds. And all of it happening on one of the most dangerous circuits ever built. But Mercedes arrived with a strategy that immediately caught attention inside the paddock. They did not put Verstappen in the car first. Instead, Danny Juncadella handled the opening stint while Verstappen waited. At first, that sounded simple. But the deeper the race went, the smarter that decision looked. Because Mercedes understood something most people watching at home did not. The Nürburgring is not won by being fast early. It is won by surviving long enough to still fight at the end. Juncadella's role was clear. Protect the car. Avoid chaos. Stay near the front while other teams risked everything in traffic. And somehow, Mercedes executed that opening phase almost perfectly. No contact. No unnecessary risks. Just smooth, controlled progress through the field while the race around them already started becoming dangerous. But then came the moment that changed the entire story. Exactly 1 hour into the race, Verstappen climbed into the car for his first real stint at the green hell. And seconds later, disaster almost arrived immediately. The incident happened at Vlugplaats, one of the most feared sections of the Nordschleife. Drivers hit the crest there at massive speed, and for a split second, the car almost lifts into the air. Now imagine doing that while surrounded by traffic, during your first race stint at the Nürburgring, with barriers waiting only inches away. The Mercedes hit the crest. The front end lifted. Then Verstappen touched the grass. Suddenly, the car snapped violently toward the guardrail at more than 200 kilometers per hour. Inside the garage, heart stopped. Because if he loses the car there, the race ends instantly. But somehow, Verstappen saved it. Tiny steering correction. Pure instinct. The kind of reaction that separates elite drivers from everyone else. Fans watching live immediately focused on the save itself. Social media exploded with clips of the moment. People called it incredible. Fearless. One of the best reactions of the entire weekend. But here's what almost nobody realized at the time. That moment may have secretly destroyed the race. Because later technical analysis raised a terrifying possibility. The violent landing may have created microscopic damage inside the rear drivetrain, especially the driveshaft that would eventually fail near the end of the race. And that changes everything emotionally. Because it means Mercedes may have been racing with a wounded car for almost 20 hours without knowing it. Think about that for a second. A hidden fracture. Invisible damage. Slowly spreading lap after lap while Verstappen continued dominating the field completely unaware that disaster might already be growing underneath him. And the scariest part is this. At that moment, the nightmare had already begun. Nobody just knew it yet. After surviving that terrifying scare, Verstappen did something that completely changed the mood of the race. He became faster. Not slightly faster. Dominant. At first, the number 3 Mercedes still looked like one more contender inside a crowded battle near the front. But once Verstappen settled into rhythm, the race started tilting heavily toward Mercedes. And this is where the pressure inside the paddock quietly started building. Because everybody could see the same thing. The Mercedes was hunting. Verstappen entered a long battle with the Lamborghini driven by Christian Engelhardt. Traffic everywhere. Cars from slower categories blocking racing lines constantly. One mistake could destroy both cars instantly. Yet Verstappen kept attacking anyway, forcing his way through with incredible precision. Then the target changed. Now he could see the Porsche everyone feared most. The famous Grello Porsche. A car with massive Nürburgring history behind it. And once Verstappen reached it, the atmosphere around the race shifted completely. Because he did not hesitate. He passed it cleanly, confidently, and took control of the Nürburgring 24 hours less than 3 hours into the event. That sounds early. But psychologically, it changed everything. When a driver dominates this hard at the Nürburgring, rival teams start feeling pressure immediately. Every pit stop becomes tense. Every strategy call feels risky. Every small mistake suddenly matters more because the leader keeps disappearing up the road. And Mercedes kept getting stronger. Through the afternoon, then into the night, the number 3 car looked almost untouchable. Verstappen, Juncadella, Gaunon, and Auer rotated through stints with near-perfect execution. Clean stops. Stable pace. Zero drama. But nighttime at the Nürburgring is where races usually collapse. Visibility drops. Temperatures fall. Drivers start fighting exhaustion. And traffic becomes terrifying because headlights are often the only warning before another car suddenly appears beside you. That is why what Verstappen's Mercedes achieved overnight became so impressive. Instead of struggling in darkness, they extended the lead even further. At one point, the gap reached nearly 40 seconds. Around a circuit this long, that is enormous. That is not luck anymore. That is control. And this is where the emotional side of the story becomes fascinating. Because Mercedes slowly stopped thinking about survival. Now they started thinking about victory. Those are completely different emotions inside a garage. Earlier in the race, the goal was simple. Stay alive. Avoid mistakes. But once a team believes victory is truly possible, tension rises instantly. Engineers monitor every vibration. Drivers stop taking unnecessary risks. Mechanics double-check every tire change because nobody wants to become the person responsible for losing the race. And underneath all that growing confidence, something dangerous may already have been developing. The hidden damage. Every lap around the Nordschleife applies enormous stress to the drivetrain. Constant acceleration. Violent compression zones. Endless vibration through the suspension and rear axle. Imagine bending a metal wire over and over again for 20 hours straight. Eventually, even strong metal begins weakening from the inside. And according to later technical analysis, that may have been exactly what was happening inside Verstappen's Mercedes while the team celebrated building a comfortable lead. The terrifying part is that nobody could see it. No smoke. No warning lights. No dramatic signs of failure. Just tiny invisible fatigue building deeper and deeper inside the driveshaft every single lap. And then, during hour 21, the car finally stopped hiding the truth. The first warning sounded almost harmless. A metallic noise coming from the rear of the Mercedes. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just strange enough to make engineers uncomfortable. At first, Danny Juncadella stayed out on track while the team monitored the situation remotely. That decision alone tells you how desperate Mercedes was to protect track position. Because the number 3 car was still leading the Nürburgring 24 hours. Still controlling the race. Still looking capable of winning. But lap after lap, the sound became worse. Fans watching the onboard stream could actually hear the metallic vibration growing sharper every few corners. That detail made the entire situation feel horrifyingly real. Millions of people were literally listening to the race falling apart in real time. And inside the Mercedes garage, panic started spreading fast. Engineers studying telemetry. Mechanics preparing tools before the car even returned to the pits. Faces changing from focused to worried almost instantly. Because deep down, everyone understood the same terrifying possibility. This was not a small issue anymore. The lead began shrinking. What had once looked like complete control suddenly felt fragile. And in endurance racing, momentum can disappear unbelievably fast once reliability problems begin. Finally, Juncadella brought the Mercedes back into the pits. And the moment mechanics inspected the rear right side, the atmosphere changed immediately. The diagnosis was brutal. Driveshaft failure. Completely mechanical. No contact with another car. No crash damage. Nothing external caused it. That detail mattered enormously. Because it meant the Mercedes did not lose due to aggression or bad luck in traffic. The car simply broke itself apart after 21 hours of punishment. Now for many casual fans, a driveshaft sounds like some tiny technical component. But in racing terms, it is critical. Think about a bicycle chain. Your legs create the power, but the chain transfers that power to the wheels. Once the chain snaps, all movement becomes useless. The driveshaft does the same thing inside a GT car. Without it, the engine cannot properly send power to the rear wheels anymore. And then the situation became even worse. Mercedes discovered the damage had spread beyond the driveshaft itself. The failure had also damaged nearby suspension and wheel carrying components around the rear corner of the car. That changed everything instantly. A simple replacement maybe takes minutes. A chain reaction of structural damage can destroy your race completely. And this is where the emotional side inside the garage became brutal. Because the mechanics already understood the truth before anyone said it publicly. The race was probably over. Still, team boss Steve Bushman initially tried sounding hopeful. He explained that the issue was mechanical and promised the team would attempt repairs and return to the race. But endurance racing does not care about optimism. The Nürburgring clock keeps moving. 3 hours remained in the race, but repairs involving the driveshaft, wheel carrier, and surrounding suspension structures could take far too long. And even if the car returned, the lost time would destroy any realistic chance of victory. That realization hit Mercedes like a wall. Because this was not some midfield car hoping for survival. This was the dominant machine of the race. 21 hours of near perfection. Destroyed by hidden mechanical fatigue. And then came the moment nobody inside that garage wanted to hear. The team officially retired the number 3 Mercedes. Just like that, Verstappen's Nürburgring dream disappeared. 40 seconds ahead. 3 hours from glory. Then silence. Mechanics standing around a broken car while another Mercedes inherited the lead instead. And this is where the story becomes almost haunting. Because the deeper analysts studied the failure afterward, the more one question kept returning. Did the race actually end during that terrifying moment at Flugplatz in the first hour? Because if the violent landing created microscopic fractures inside the drivetrain, then Verstappen may have been unknowingly driving a dying car for almost an entire day. Which means the most important moment of the race may not have happened near the finish. It may have happened right at the beginning, long before anyone realized disaster was already waiting. What happened after the retirement may have hurt Mercedes even more than the mechanical failure itself. Because suddenly, the entire paddock realized how close Max Verstappen had been to creating one of the greatest endurance racing victories in recent memory. Not just because he was winning. Because of how he was winning. For 21 straight hours, the number 3 Mercedes controlled the Nürburgring with terrifying consistency. No major mistakes. No panic. No collapse during the night. The team survived the green hell almost perfectly. And then, without warning, everything vanished. Inside the garage, the atmosphere reportedly changed from tension to disbelief almost instantly. Mechanics stood around the broken car trying to understand how a race they dominated could disappear because of a hidden mechanical issue buried deep inside the drivetrain. That is the part casual fans sometimes struggle to understand about endurance racing. The most painful defeats are not chaotic ones. The most painful defeats are the quiet ones. The races where you do almost everything correctly, then lose anyway. No dramatic crash. No weather disaster. No strategic gamble gone wrong. Just a tiny invisible weakness that survives for hours before destroying everything at the exact worst moment possible. And somehow, the emotional damage became even worse moments later. Because another Mercedes inherited the lead. The number 80 Windward Mercedes eventually went on to win the Nürburgring 24 hours after Verstappen's retirement. Think about how brutal that must have felt. One Mercedes garage celebrating victory. Another Mercedes garage staring at a dead car that had looked unbeatable less than an hour earlier. Same manufacturer. Same event. Completely opposite emotions. And this is where the story started becoming bigger than just one mechanical failure. Because people immediately connected this heartbreak to the pattern surrounding Verstappen's entire season. Australia brought frustration. China ended with reliability concerns. Japan slipped away. Miami showed progress, but still left disappointment behind. And now Nürburgring delivered the cruelest blow of all. This time, Verstappen was not fighting for points or podiums. He was fighting for something personal. Legacy outside Formula One. Proof that he could dominate one of the hardest races in the world on his first real attempt. And for 21 hours, he absolutely did. That is why the reaction online became so emotional afterward. Fans even started joking about a curse surrounding Verstappen and the number 3 during 2026. But beneath the jokes, there was a deeper tension nobody could ignore anymore. Pressure changes everything inside elite teams. When setbacks keep repeating, every future problem feels heavier. Engineers begin questioning small decisions. Drivers push harder trying to compensate. Tiny mechanical concerns suddenly become terrifying because recent failures are still fresh in everybody's mind. And the technical explanation behind this collapse only made the story more haunting. Engineers explained that driveshafts at the Nürburgring endure extreme stress for hour after hour. Constant acceleration loads. Violent direction changes. Huge temperature swings between freezing nighttime sections and intense heat generated under racing conditions. Now combine all of that with one violent impact early in the race. The Flugplatz moment. The airborne landing. The massive shock sent through the rear of the Mercedes at over 200 kilometers per hour. Suddenly, the theory becomes impossible to ignore. What if the race was already damaged during hour 1? What if the driveshaft survived for 20 hours carrying microscopic fractures nobody could see? Imagine cracking a piece of glass very slightly. At first, nothing changes. It still looks strong, still usable. But every vibration spreads the damage deeper until eventually the entire structure explodes without warning. That may have been exactly what happened here. And honestly, that possibility makes the defeat feel even crueler. Because it means Verstappen may have unknowingly driven a dying car while building a 40-second lead through the night. The victory looked safe. But underneath the car, the countdown toward disaster may already have started long before anyone realized it. And Verstappen's own reaction afterward revealed how confusing the whole situation felt, even from inside the team. He admitted they noticed something strange during the stint, but could not fully explain how the damage became so severe without major contact. That uncertainty still hangs over the entire story. Because Formula One usually teaches fans that the fastest driver wins. But endurance racing teaches something much colder. Sometimes perfection is not enough. Sometimes dominance means nothing. Sometimes the machine decides your fate long before you even know you are in danger.